If I got shot today, I am sure there are millions of people around the globe who would ravel in my death.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Charlie Kirk himself tweeted, "The right to speak freely is the birthright of all Americans." It's very interesting that in the last 3 days after Charlie Kirk was killed, they even proposed a bill to revoke citizenships for people critical of Israel.
Who committed the hit job on Charlie Kirk?
I don't know, but I find it very interesting that Netanyahu, Prime Minister of a country, went around the TV shows making sure that we didn't kill. I mean, this is like a very weird position.
But I've also been, as you know, increasingly critical of the Israeli government.
I'm sorry, you're not fooling me, Piers. You are actually the real Iron Dome of Israel.
You want the right to suggest that Charlie Kirk was the subject of a hit job by Israel. You want the world to think that.
Well, let's talk about Toby Robinson. So Israel openly causing civil unrest in London.
You call me an ill-informed, irresponsible journalist.
Because I'm not a journalist. I'm a comedian. Remember, I'm a clown.
Charlie Kirk's murder has shone an unflattering spotlight on the abject state of discourse and division, especially online, where extreme takes increasingly lead to real-world consequences. Many of the protesters at London's massive anti-immigration march this weekend, already fired up by some dubious content, brought their fury about Charlie Kirk onto the streets, and at the heart of it all is a bitter blame game in which neither side is in the mood for compromise. Comedian and activist Bassem Youssef is a familiar face to uncensored viewers. His recent contribution to these debates implies he's in no mood for taking the temperature down. He's about to embark on a new tour called The Belly of the Beast, and he joins me now. Bassem, great to see you again.
Hello.
What is your view of the Charlie Kirk assassination?
Oh, assassination is bad. I mean, it's a very open question. And so if you're talking about the assassination, of course it's bad. But can you get more specific? What do you want me to say?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the more specific one would be, I've been appalled. I didn't agree with everything Charlie Kirk stood for or said, but I respected the fact that he always went in to college campuses in particular and invited everyone who disagreed with him to come and debate with him. He was always happy to hear other people giving their views and would challenge them, and they would challenge him. And I was appalled that the woke left, as I see it, as opposed to the old liberal left, in which I used to be a happy member, that the woke left seemed to be gleeful about his murder and have raced to social media to celebrate it. We've seen rap stars do it. We've seen TikTokers do it. Influencers do it. All over the world, competing with each other to see who could be the most gleeful. We've seen teachers, doctors, university administrators and so on. I'm at a complete loss to understand how any human being with any sense of humanity would want to be seen celebrating the murder of a 31-year-old man with his wife and 2 kids watching at the time for his opinions.
I mean, it's terrible, of course. I mean, to celebrate anybody's death, whether it's a 31 years old father or babies and children in Gaza every day, where we have seen the woke left and the right are celebrating the death of children every single day and nothing happened to them. I mean, first of all, when you say the woke left, who are these people? Are they who are the leaders? Bunch of pop stars and influencers and people with TikTok. And I mean, does that represent?
Well, I think it's more. Well, I would say it's more than that. I'd say there's a lot of people who I think have been part of what I call the woke ideology in the last few years, which has morphed from a very laudable thing originally. When in the 60s and 70s, it started in American black music, and it was about promoting a raised awareness of social and racial injustice. I wrote a book about it. By that criteria, I'm happily woke. But what it's morphed into in recent years, driven, I think, by very tribal social media, is it's become a form of fascism, where people on the woke left are quite happy to want to shame and vilify and cancel and destroy people for having a different view to them, whether that view is about historical figures or about books or about movies or about fashion or about hairstyles or what you can wear on Halloween or whatever it may be. It became a puritanical purge, which I felt has bordered on fascism. And at the heart of it was the constant description of Donald Trump as the new Hitler, his supporters as the new Nazis. They're all a bunch of fascists. And eventually you have a young, deranged mind who apparently, according to investigators, is of a woke ideology, radicalized, who initialed on the bullets that this was an anti-fascism assassination because he probably believed that Charlie Kirk was a fascist and a Nazi and everything else because that's what his people had told him. And I feel that's an incredibly dangerous cocktail that has been allowed to happen. And when I saw the celebrations going on, I realized it wasn't just about this shooter, that there were a lot of people in America, in the UK, around the world, who actually agree and were prepared to celebrate it.
Well, let's break this down. Now, when you say the left is very general, if you have thousands of people with TikTok accounts that celebrate people's death, it happens on the right and on the left. Mm-hmm. There are people who have mocked the death of the Minnesota lawmaker and her husband and her dog that were shot in front of their 4 years old. And again, I just want to preface it, I'm not condoning what happened to Charlie Kirk. What happened is terrible. It should not be accepted. And myself, I will never celebrate something like that. But I'm a little bit confused because someone like Randy Fine, who's a congressman from Florida, who posted about going after people's jobs if they mock Charlie's death online, which is terrible, of course, if you mock anybody's death. But the fact that you go after someone, it's very confusing to me because for those of you who don't know who Randy Fine is, he is the fat bitch who continues to suck Israel every day on a daily basis. And that guy, he is in Gaza, like he said, everyone in Gaza should die. Kill them all. Let the blood fall in Gaza. They are animals. And now he pretends to have a soul. That this kind of manufactured selective rage that will confuse me. If you're going to have rage, please. If you're going to be angry, please. But just be consistent. We have people losing their jobs, their careers, getting cancers for being dismissive about Charlie death. Again, terrible to do. But I don't get it because I thought canceling something is what the hippie PC left would do. I don't condone making insensitive remarks about a guy who was just murdered. We can discuss his ideas. We can praise or trash his ideas because his ideas will live on forever. But if some people are insensitive or rude, well, he was a public figure. For many people, he was a controversial figure. If today Biden or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton died or got shot, I'm sure there's a lot of people that will celebrate their death. If I got shot today, I am sure there are millions of people around the globe who would revel in my death, and they will make content that would call it insensitive. I'm sure that if you died, Piers Morgan, people would be celebrating.
Yeah,
so
sure.
So I don't understand. Yes, we can talk about it being insensitive, terrible. We can talk about it with a moral issue, but I don't understand the double standards of the West.
Well, I think I do. Listen, I think on that, Bassem.
Let me
sure, finish. Yeah.
Part, because for years, we as Muslims and Arabs, we were lectured from the West about freedom of expression, freedom to offend. It's very important. Freedom to offend. Freedom to offend. But for years, people made fun of Muslims, Arabs, our religion, our culture, our babies and children being killed in Gaza every single day. And no one lost a single minute of sleep over it, which is very confusing to me because the lines between what is legal, what is allowed, what is accepted, what is punishable, what is frowned upon, these are lines seem hazy. So please, yes, go rage, be angry about it, but be consistent so people can believe you.
You know, I think you make a very good point. I've seen some of the hounding of certain people out of jobs in the last few days is clearly hypocritical because unless you're actually condoning the murder and endorsing and supporting an act of criminal murder, if you're just criticising Charlie Kirk for positions that he held, I think that's perfectly okay, right? I may not like it if you're a friend of Charlie's or one of his family members, but he would be the first to say, that's fine. Where I think the line is for me with cancel culture, if you like, is that there's a guy, for example, who's the president-elect of the Oxford Union Debating Society. I think you've done it, Bassem, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right. So we've both done that. It's probably the most famous debating society in the world. The whole point of it is that they bring people into that chamber to debate, to have different opinions and debate, as you and I do regularly. And the president-elect, after Charlie Kirk was murdered, having debated opposite Charlie Kirk in that chamber in May himself, actually gleefully celebrated the murder, said LOL, and said, let's fucking go, with a big exclamation mark, right? That, to me, it's not cancel culture to say that guy should not be the president of the Oxford Union Debating Society. Clearly, he should not be the president of a debating society if he celebrates somebody being murdered for their opinions. Would you agree with that?
I agree with that, but let's say if we agree on that, let's agree on everything else. So everybody who holds a position who mocks the death of Palestinian children being killed every day in front of cameras, they should lose their job too. You understand why it is difficult for me to be on the same page with you? Because this is like cherry picking. Like
well, you haven't asked me if I agree with you.
No,
I don't disagree. I think if you're a doctor, let me explain. If you're a Harvard professor, or you're a doctor, or you're a teacher, and you glorify or celebrate the murder, or depending which side you're on, whether you see it as murder or collateral damage as you go after Hamas, whatever you want to call it. But if you are seen celebrating the death, you had to
mention Hamas there, right?
I'm just showing you.
You had to just like
no. You know my view of this. Right? No, Bassem. No, I'm simply saying.
You just have to mention Hamas.
I'm simply saying.
I remember.
There are many Wait a minute. Let me clarify. The reason I clarified, there are many people who believe what the IDF has been doing with civilians is murder and genocide. There are others on the pro-Israeli side who believe that they are targeting a terror group in Hamas and that innocent people will get killed in the process. Therefore, it's not murder. So I'm clarifying the two sides of that debate. You have a strong view. Other people have an equally strong view the other way. But my point being, if you're in a position of
there's no two sides of genocide. Yeah. There's no two sides of the Holocaust. There's no two sides. Seriously. So let's stop two-siding it because it's becoming exhausting.
Okay, let's not get into that part of the debate. The part I want to agree with you about is this. I think if you're an administrator of a university or a hospital or a school, if you're in charge of teaching people or medical practice, and you are seen celebrating the deaths of innocent people publicly on social media, you should not keep your job, right? Because clearly you are unfit for that job. And it should be down to the people who run these organizations to say, sorry, no, you don't get to teach kids if you glorify murder.
Well, there are people who are teaching kids on the left who glorified, hey, happy 5th anniversary for George Floyd. It's a 5 years sober because he's dead for 5 years. I mean, the thing is, my thing is, if we're going to live in a utopian, polite society, let's make it general. The idea of just cherry picking things
I don't
disagree.
disagree.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, here's the thing. This is the internet, Piers. The internet will always promote the most hateful, the most controversial reactions. This is how social media, there's a whole kind of scoring system. A like would be 1 point, an angry face would be 5 points. This is what the internet, this is what boils up to the surface. It's always like that. If people say, oh, Charlie was a good man, I hope he is in heaven, that will not get a lot of traction. But people with more controversial, that's just a function of the internet. But if you're gonna talk the internet, people all go on Twitter and they just write whatever on their mind. But if you're gonna punish people with whatever on their mind, so we need, I think, to expand this spectrum. And let me read something that Charlie Kirk himself tweeted, talking about free speech. Because in April he said, tomorrow the House will vote on HR 867, a bill that will criminalize private boycotting of Israel, fines up to $1 million and prison up to 20 years. Bills like this only create more anti-Semitism and play into growing narratives that Israel is running the U.S. government. In America, you are allowed to hold differing views. You are allowed to disagree and protest. You're allowed to too many people who hate America to move here from abroad, but the right to speak freely is the birthright of all Americans. This bill should not pass. Any Republicans that vote for this bill will expose themselves. We will be watching very closely. And then it's very interesting that in the last 3 days after Charlie Kirk was killed, in the past 3 days, the Congress approved $650 million for Israel for missile defense. They presented an amendment that bans Pentagon from boycotting Israel. And they even proposed a bill to allow Marco Rubio to revoke citizenships for people critical of Israel. This is what we need to talk about. This is what we need to talk about. If there are people there who celebrate if the Pope would kill people, it's been going on for years. Even when the Pope if he died, people celebrate his death.
Yeah,
this is words. Yeah, it could be terrible, offensive words. But when you turn words into destroying people's careers, revoking people's citizenship because they talk about a foreign country, this is the real problem. This is the real problem with freedom of speech. That's not about people celebrating or angry about someone who died. All right, our roads and infrastructures, our education system, our healthcare, they're failing. While settlers in the West Bank, they occupied Palestine, they get free housing and free healthcare, free education. Same in England. I mean, I'm sorry, but like you, as a very famous and a very able and a very competent investigative reporters, I think you should actually talk about why more than half of your cabinet in the British government is financed by Israel. Why the Royal Army, the Royal Air Force are giving logistical help to Israeli planes bombing Gaza. I'm sure that there's not a single British person who would agree on that. Isn't that more important than this kind of manufactured rage? I mean, why don't you talk about like,
well,
this is
okay,
your
but
tax money? Aren't you worried? No, but like seriously.
No, I hear you.
I'm very, very curious. Yeah, but why don't you talk about this?
But Bassem, as you know, I talk about the war all the time. And as
no, you never talked about the Israeli lobby financing your British minister.
There are always
you
lots.
Never did.
All right, there are always lots.
You never did.
Okay, but there are lots.
You never did.
Okay, but I've also been, as you know, increasingly critical of the Israeli government. You can't accuse me of being biased.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're not fooling me, Piers. I'm sorry, because like I